Independent Advantage video series by Optometry Times. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Gianne Castellanos. I'm an optometrist and practice owner in Chicago. And today we're talking about something that has the power to transform the way you practice. It is the relationship between you and the ophthalmologist that you partner with when you refer your patients. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Gianne Castellanos, an optometrist who has spent a significant part of her career studying, experiencing, and seeking solutions to one of the most persistent challenges in our profession. And that is the communication gap that sometimes occurs between optometrists and ophthalmologists during patient care. So let's meet Dr. Castellanos. Dr. Castellanos is a Florida-based optometrist with a clinical background in pediatric care and myopia management. She has a passion for the business side of optometry, specifically the breakdown in communication between optometrists and ophthalmologists. This has shaped her into the leading voice on referral relationships with eye care, creating the chiasm. The chiasm is a network that connects ONDs with ODs referrals for better communication. The connection between an OD and an ophthalmologist has the power to elevate patient care in a way that neither of us could achieve alone. Today, we are talking about how to make that connection as seamless and as strong as possible. Dr. Castellanos has seen this gap up close, not just as a clinician, but as someone who cared enough to do something about it. And today, she is here to have a candid conversation about what is really happening, why it matters, and what needs to change. Dr. Castellanos, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's start with our first question. In your experience, where does the communication between optometrists and ophthalmologists sometimes tend to break down? And at what stage of the referral process is it most critical?
Oh, wow. Thinking about that question, really what's happening now after I've examined the whole referral process from start to finish, I could tell you our systems are antiquated. What does that mean? Antiquated. We're using fax machines to send our referrals. Currently, most optometrists don't even use a fax. They either text the doctor directly, which is a HIPAA violation, or they might just put it on a piece of paper and ship the patient off with no real direction. And I think it's really a big shame that we haven't evolved in that part that's so significant in making sure our patients get the right care they need for that referral.
And I mean, every aspect of the referral is important, right? But the beginning, intermediate, like getting all the right information, but every part of it is so crucial. The fact that you share that they're texting and like you said, faxing, like I don't think my office has a fax. It has a system that that can send a fax. But like you said, the whole texting thing, and some MDs, they don't want to do that, right?
The other factor is that most optometrists are not taking the time to direct the patient to the right ophthalmologist. So they're leaving it in the patient's hands. They'll call your insurance, find out who's on your panel. And you may never see that patient again. You probably don't even know, did they go to the ophthalmologist? Maybe they couldn't find an ophthalmologist to see.
Right. So from your experience, why do you think ophthalmologists and optometrists sometimes struggle to stay connected throughout the patient's care journey? So let's say the ophthalmologist got the referral and now the patient went to the ophthalmologist. Why do we sometimes struggle to stay connected throughout that journey?
The issue is that it's not on top of mind. As optometrists, especially practice owners, we have to deal with staff. We have to deal with our patient. We have to deal with all the business aspects. And I'm talking more as a sole proprietor, right? Because I'm going to identify and feel more that side because that's the way I practice. But I can tell you, even my associates or other doctors that work in corporate settings, when I went and visited, the main thing is it just wasn't on the top of their list. So if you didn't put it as a priority, then you really didn't make the time to organize yourself. And at the end of the day, it's all about seeing the next patient, seeing the next patient. I
Mm,
mean, whether you are an associate, you want to see the next patient to finish, or you're a business owner and you want to see the next patient to get paid. Now, it doesn't mean everybody thinks like that, right? I just think that it's extra work that maybe just people don't see it's worth the time and effort to actually go ahead and do the referral process properly.
right, which leads me to my next question, right? So, what does an optometrist, what do our colleagues need to know or do before, during, and after a referral to keep the relationship strong and the patient taken care of?
I think the most important thing is building the right relationship with the right doctors in the area. I've heard stories, well, actually, myself, I've referred patients for glaucoma suspects, and next thing you know, because they're covered under their insurance, next thing you know, my patient comes back with cataract surgery. So I think the
Oh,
first, yeah, oh yeah, and LPIs, and you're like, I just sent a patient for a glaucoma suspect, not because I don't know how to treat it, is because it's a capitated plan and I'm not on the panel. So in
mhm,
our area, especially in Miami-Dade, we are limited by who we could, who we could see and who we can't. I mean, you could always have them sign an ABN, but there's limitations. So, and going back to your other question, I think that that's something that limits other optometrists too, is not having the right proper tools and not being on the medical panels. It makes it really hard to be able to facilitate that process.
I agree. So let's talk about the ophthalmologist side, right? From their
Mhm.
point. What do they wish that the referring OD understood about how they prefer to receive and communicate their referrals? Like if there's something we need to know as the referring OD that the ophthalmologist would really appreciate in those referrals.
I'm going to go back to the other question. And I'm going to tie it into this one. When you graduate, right? Because I go to Nova and I talk to the students, or I meet a lot of people looking for work. Whenever you go to a new job, a new city, or you graduate and you become an optometrist, it's so important to meet ophthalmologists in your area. Not only meet them, through local societies, networking events, but also going into their office, seeing what the practice looks like. Look at the equipment. Is the equipment up to date? Is the front desk staff overwhelmed? Is the staff clean? Do they understand insurances? And then actually tell the doctor, can I shadow you for an hour? I just want to see. And let me tell you, when I graduated, I did that for job interviews, and you start seeing, well, this is not a place I want to refer my patient to.
Right.
If the patient is sitting there complaining about a botched blepharoplasty, which completely happens. So that really was one of the take homes. First, find the right ophthalmologist that you feel comfortable is going to do the best for your patient and is going to communicate back with you. The second thing you're saying is, okay, what do ophthalmologists want from us? Well, they want our referrals, that's for sure. I think they just want to be on the top of your list and they want all the information they can. So what happens is a lot of times they get texted information. I think they want us to make sure you contact the right people, the referral department, and they want to make sure all the patient information is there, the medical records, and so important is the ICD-10 code. A lot of doctors send the information. It happens to me too. I didn't realize it. We were sending without ICD-10 code. And some insurances require a prior authorization. And if they
Right.
don't have that, the PCP cannot give it, even though it's from an optometrist. It doesn't matter. So I
Right.
think that giving them the right information is so important. I went to the optometric symposium conference, and one of the speakers, one of the neurologists there, was amazing, and he kept on saying, give them the Buzz Lightyear pass, making sure we send the right tests. If your patient is a stroke patient and you have a visual field, the lightning pass, make sure you send them with all the documents that they need to get that patient in. So make sure that you send all those tests that's going to get your patient in quick.
This is what I've experienced on my end. I found that some ophthalmologists have a really good system in place, right? They have like their own portal. They have even like, okay, upload this documentation here, upload it here, and everything has a process. And usually those are the ones that you want to refer to because, they have a process, a system in place that is easy for us to follow and for them to get the information that they